Hello, everybody. My guest this morning is Dane Atkinson. He's a serial entrepreneur with a focus on technology, data, and small business. He's been CEO of a dozen companies like SumAll and Squarespace, mentors of far too many others, and had the pleasure of building the careers of thousands while creating billions in equity value and sometimes losing millions. Dane, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, I surely am.
All right. What felt better, making billions or losing millions?
Actually, they're both pretty interesting. It's the middle that's the most boring when you're not really doing one thing or another. Certainly the making is better than the losing.
All right, let's start off with, I think the name probably people are more familiar with, Squarespace. What did you do at Squarespace? And then complete the story. How'd that transition to SumAll?
So I joined Squarespace when it was basically just Anthony, who's the current CEO. I joined up as the CEO, I guess now almost 10 years ago, and spent 5 years building the company up through its first chapters. We raised a whole hunk of money and I think made a pretty interesting product that is still sort of the market leader for the design side of websites today.
And what years were that? Put some brackets on that for us.
That was 2007 to 11.
Now, did he bring you in at the beginning there, or you guys were co-founders together and you were CEO?
No, he'd started off at the University of Maryland. He was working out of a dorm room, literally. He got a small office. I tried to find a way to buy him, but he's way too smart. So I was lucky
Wait. Tell us more of that story. So what did that sound like and how'd you find him? Why'd you want to buy him?
A mutual friend of ours identified him. At the time, I'd known Karp and some other people who were looking at publishing. I thought publishing was an interesting space.
David
I had a couple
Karp, right?
Yep. Who were in the same kind of industry. I owned a company called For Your Imagination, which was a video podcasting company. I was working at a company called Vidivy, which is a competitor to YouTube at the time. So I had a big belief in this idea of content creation. And I got introduced to him and thought his product, even back then, was just light years ahead. As an engineer and a founder, he was exceptional. Is exceptional. He has a sense of design and technology that's really rare. But he was really young. And I've been through this so many times. I was like, oh, well, this would be really easy. So we sort of danced around for a while. Eventually, we had lunch, I think, with his dad, which is my final ask of approval to join up. And we quickly grew from there. So I think, the months after I joined, we built up the tech team. We added a lot more support and started.
But Dane, when was the kicking moment? When did you realize, okay, there's no way this guy's going to sell to me, so I should join him if I can't buy him?
Pretty early on, like he had developed enough of a revenue stream that he was enjoying a lifestyle.
What size was it back then? Can you share that?
We're pretty quiet about the figures, but it was definitely more than one person should be earning that way.
Got it. Okay. And his team size?
It was still essentially a one-person company.
That's what I was going to ask. It was basically him. What can we say north of 500 grand? I mean, he was making plenty cash flow wise.
Oh yeah, in the course of a year, he's definitely making that kind of money.
Yeah, interesting.
It's very, very impressive at an early age to accomplish.
Did you get an actual offer on the table? Did you ever say, okay, here's my final thing? And
no, I just tried and realized that it was a fruitless ground and thought that it would be better just to pair up. I saw in him something that was interesting. He had a lot of the same ambitions and foils that I had made when I lost my runs or made runs in the very early part of my career. So I figured I could help guide around some of the pitfalls, which worked out. I think we had a really good together.
So 2007 to then, what was the final year?
2011, I think is when I left.
And so tell me about that. What happened there? Why'd you leave?
Well, we'd sort of conquered the market. So we'd raised $40 million. We'd resisted the fair share of acquisition offers. We had a large office and large team. I think that we'd identified ourselves as sort of category winner even then for the design side of things. I'm addicted to this idea of creating companies. I've done it as my bio would say way too many times. So I felt at that time that it was probably the right thing for him to sort of blossom out as he'd learned all the lessons I could surely pass on for me to take another swing at it. So went back to the start.
What was it? I mean, but there had to have been some more leverage besides you kind of just being in that mindset. I mean, was there a round that was happening and the lead on that round wanted to put in a CEO, or you just felt like you couldn't add any more value?
No, neither, actually. I think that, we've been between rounds. The company was always profitable. It's a very strong business model. I think that we just felt that we'd sort of found our DNA, and me and Anthony felt that it was kind of the time for him to do it without me.
Mm-hmm. Dane, quick question on profitability. How can you be profitable when you raised $40 million unless that $40 million just sits in the bank and you don't spend it?
You can actually be profitable before you raise that kind of money. And there are some case stories, as is Squarespace, where you build the profit business all the way through. Obviously, when we raise that kind of money, we would spend it aggressively, but the return was really quick. So you
Got
would
it.
see a dip in your income for sure as you started to put that money to work in marketing. But Squarespace has always been a machine that's just generated ahead of itself.
So the money velocity was really tight. You'd get payback periods under 6 months and then reinvest and keep churning.
Yeah, actually, it's gotten harder at being a SaaS these days, but certainly back then we would be able to return money in 3 months from advertising. It's
That's
strong
great.
product.
That's great. Okay, tell us about SumAll. What does it do and what's the model? Is it SaaS?
So it's freemium. Actually, it's almost entirely free from a purposeful standpoint. So we've done this enough that we felt we could give back to the SME. The SME is a place I spent way too much of my career. So it's an analytics platform that lets small businesses kind of compete against the giants. And they put their data in our environment, and it does things for them automatically, and it gets them a sense of what's actually happening. We're about the same size from a customer footprint as Squarespace, but obviously we don't have the kind of income. But we definitely shift people's lives, which is very fulfilling.
Well, so when you said you had free users and then you said they're same size customer-wise as Squarespace. So is it all free right now and you're still just growing the base, or you have paid? So
No.
When you say customers, what do you mean by
that? So we define a customer as someone who's actively using the platform,
but not paying.
No, not paying at all.
Okay, come on, Dane. My audience is going to listen to that and go, "Wait, what do you mean? You can't call a non-paying user a customer."
It's true. That's fair.
Well, how are you supporting this if it's all free? Is it you're just using? I mean, how do you decide when to turn on income, or do you just not want to do that? You're just a good person and philanthropic and
a bit of both, right? So we are definitely mission driven. We've been lucky enough to build enough companies that VCs give us money to burn the furnace. So we've got a roaring furnace in the corner of our operations. I think
how much have you raised?
We raised about $25 million. Our belief is that if we are able to consolidate this category, and as we are, so we're 500,000 business on the platform, we'll be able to do things that are really meaningful for that community and also generate a lot of capital for us. It doesn't really work in the small scale. So we don't want to preclude people from getting advantage of their data, and we don't want to slow down the platform from its growth at this stage. I think down the road, we'll be in a very good position to collectively defend and offer things to our customers. So our hope is that in the next couple of years, we'll start to add enough value that we'll turn a few of those knobs.
So tell us more about, because this podcast obviously has an opportunity to drive a lot of people to the website, but I want them to really understand what it does. Can you tell us a story of how a business is using you? Your headline on the website is your personal data scientist, but what does it actually do?
Yeah, so I think that the sad part about the way the ecosystem is changing is small businesses have to have a PhD in analytics and marketing and all these different things, which they simply don't, right? So for us, the advantage is if you're a small business and you're connecting your data, you put in your social services, you put in your Shopify account, your Etsy account, or your PayPal, you put in your ads accounts, and you see everything in one place. We'll give you a sort of a rundown each day of what's happening. So for best practices, you can sort of see yourself evolve and understand what the market looks around you. And then we sort of automate away some of the basic stresses. So we help create content, take products out of Shopify and we'll help list them inside of your social account. So we'll find the best trending products and we'll help market that. So lowering sort of the workload that people have to do. The future where we see ourselves going is as we continue to consolidate and get enough data to do these things smartly is there's a lot of pain and work that those small businesses shouldn't have to do that, AI machines can just do for them. So we're starting to look at more and more automations that are intelligent that just take away the work.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a very weird question, and this is a problem that it would be a very good problem for you to have. If your platform is perfectly efficient and you get 100% market share of SMBs, you can't optimize everyone's Shopify products because you'll have the same competitors using your platform. 1,000 different people selling a shoe that is trending. You can only, pick one of them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So how do you, people have an advantage if they use you, but what if everyone's using you? Do you lose that advantage?
No. So I think that if we look at the way like Amazon works is they have thousands of, similar items that are all sort of related to each other in the way they sell. The way we work is slightly different. We're working one-to-one with each vendor. So in theory, if we actually were to penetrate the entire SMB and every single company picked the same automation, they said, pick my number one trending product and let's talk about it when it's succeeding. That would definitely crowd the communications a bit, but it's a very one-to-one communication between that brand and their customers. So if that Shopify store is talking about their high-heeled shoes and the next Shopify store is talking about their high-heeled shoes, they're really targeting their audience. They're both talking about what they're seeing in the shoe sales, like shoe sales are up, I changed the price on it, these kind of things. So I don't think they would be competitive. Some of the aggregate roll-up stuff, maybe, and you can't get around products that just aren't strong. I guess part of the process of developing your business is finding out when things work. What we want to get away from is having to be a marketing expert to actually go into small business, or having to be, a data scientist to actually make sense of what you want to do. Like, it used to be you could hang a shingle outside your door. Now it doesn't work anymore. You need a whole team to be successful.
Now, so do you see yourself as basically giving SMBs the power of kind of Amazon and how Amazon does data on the back end to recommend things? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, we sort of see ourselves ultimately trying to defend them against those kind of marketplaces. The problem is that Amazon is using a huge amount of data and has aggregation across so many products that it's very hard in isolation to compete. But in isolation is where all innovation happens. So these small manufacturers and crafters and creators are actually making better products and better experiences because they're trying to innovate, but they're getting lost against the sea. As you see Amazon's dominance continue. So the advantage that we can hopefully give, and hopefully tools like us, is start to provide the technology underpinning that lets them actually compete, let customers understand the marketplace, let customers move between places, let them communicate out in the same way that Amazon would.
Okay. But you're not just to be clear, you're not building a marketplace. You're not also signing up. Okay, got it. They've got to upload their own customer list, and then you'll help them decide what recommendation to make to the customer that just purchased to increase cart value by 2x.
Exactly. So they don't upload anything to us because we think that data shouldn't do work. They just connect their accounts. So if they built a store and
API stuff.
Right. They'll connect Etsy to us through an OAuth process. We'll pull in all the SKU data from Etsy, and then we'll start talking about it inside of the social services to let them know. Or we'll help them create the ad campaign to help them, get visibility. So they're not actually having to. If you look at the small business, the average small business has 14 integrations right now. They're using 14 SaaSes just to survive, which is just lunacy. When we started with Squarespace, like, the average company had 2 or 3 SaaS they were using. They found us. They were like, "Oh my God, this is an amazing thing. I can give you my credit card and have a website." Like, wow. Now it's the poor operators are like, "Yeah, I've got a Zendesk account. I've got a Shopify account. I've got a PayPal account. I don't even know where all my passwords are," right? So the stress for them is they have this huge proliferation of information. It's not helping them at all, right? They're collecting information inside of one service, inside of Etsy, but it's not actually getting to MailChimp, right? They're not getting it out into Facebook or anywhere else. So consolidating that data in one place that helps them, I think, is an interesting new category. And to the reason that I sort of moved on is I've always loved the idea of stretching out to new categories. So I think that there is a coming wave of this sort of automation support that will be its own space, especially when it's data backed.
Yeah, there are indicators that this is hot. As SaaS grows, obviously this becomes hotter, but we've had Wade on at Zapier and they're crushing it. We had the Segment guys on, they're crushing it. They're basically the pipelines connecting all these things. And what you're saying is, yeah, you have some pipeline dynamics on your side, but you make connecting all the pipelines much easier. And then also, it sounds like you're also taking a step further and not just connecting the things, but also making recommendations on what you should do now that all the data is collected in one spot.
Yeah, so we're in the same thing. We've been growing over 100% pretty much quarter over quarter.
In terms of new user signups?
In terms of not customers, because obviously we don't charge, but yes, in terms of new user signups. But the thing we discovered, which was a very hard learned lesson, was when we first started is we tried to provide insights and guidance. We found that the SMEs just didn't have the bandwidth for it. So we would promote, like, stop advertising on Twitter. It's not working for you. Your product's better on Instagram. You're seeing better results. Move your budget. And they would move the budget. So we've evolved into is this sense that they actually want it just to be automated. They would rather us balance out the ad budget. They'd rather us create the content than just saying you need to talk to these 5 customers because they're really important. They'd rather us just talk to the 5 customers.
Mm-hmm. That makes good sense. So how are you acquiring customers right now? You raised a bunch of capital. Is most of that going towards team size or customer or user acquisition cost? What is it?
Yeah, so that's, again, part of the model is that we don't actually have a user acquisition cost. We don't do any marketing to get our customers. It's all word of mouth. It's visibility from our partners that push us. It's sort of being able to say with confidence how the different ecosystems look. So we get a lot of, thought awareness. And the product itself sort of is viral. So when people see automations coming from us, if you see the pizza shop down the corner talking about their new hours, you tend to want to come to us because why wouldn't you want to do that for your business?
How will the bread shop know that the pizza shop is using SumAll? I didn't follow that.
So the bread shop, admires this great pizza shop. They spend time looking at them. They follow them on social, and then they'll see on social the pizza shop saying, "Hey, I've got a $5 discount for anyone who comes in tonight because it's going to be cold outside." Underneath it says it's brought to you by SumAll. They think, why didn't I have that same automation? Or it won't, but they'll say, this shop is doing these things every single day. How are they creating content that seems to tie into their data? And we're the place you go to figure that out, kind of thing.
I see. Okay, interesting. And then last few questions here before we wrap up. Team size today, what are you guys at?
We're a little under 50.
Okay, a little under 50, and everyone based up there in New York?
Yep. We have people across the country, but most people are right here in New York.
Okay. And remind us, founding year was which year?
2012.
2012. Okay. And then last question here, again, on pricing. What kind of internal signals are you listening very closely to understand when it makes sense to potentially charge or decide what to charge for?
Yeah, so that's a conversation we often banty about. I think it's really important to provide a solid value. When we were looking at our engagement metrics previously, we would see 20 times the engagement that folks would find in sort of Google Analytics or any other platform, but we weren't actually changing the revenue for our customers. So we're very focused right now on actually making sure that we can track the results of those automations, show that there's actually revenue coming from it. And
attribution.
I think when we've closed that attribution list and we feel real value, then we can find a way to lightly charge. Also, SMEs hate taking out their credit cards now because they've done it for those other 18 services. So we're trying to find ways that we can improve and optimize their business and help them save costs and take advantage of that versus actually just directly charging.
Yeah,
but again, we're very fortunate to be backed in a manner that lets us learn and lets us build the customer base to start with.
Yeah, because of your history, you have the ability, obviously, to raise. Many would argue, well, the best way to grow a big company in this space is to not charge for as long as possible, right? So if you're good at fundraising and you can show growth, ideally, you never charge the SMEs. Are there other ways for you to make money? I mean, look, I can imagine if you have this distribution channel and you can point 2 million SMBs to advertising on Facebook's new product, Facebook is willing to pay you for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we are holistically trying to protect our customers. So in an environment where we can collectively bargain against Facebook and get an advantage for all that data and make it a cheaper price, we would do that. I think there is an interesting point, though. So I've done this way too many times, and we try different models. So Squarespace was awesome that it was just a charge model. So as all things, I kind of swung the pendulum the other way. It is fantastic for growing really fast business, and we're really lucky that people support us in that fashion. I would advise for
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean you swung the pendulum the other way?
So one of the things we sat around at Squarespace was we were buying our customers. We were trying to build that base, and we thought, wow, if we had a free product, we would just have a huge population instead of slowly crawling through it. So as an operator, often I find myself doing the opposite of what I did the last time. So I did the opposite. I went purely free, thinking this would be a brilliant model. And it worked as we expected. We built a huge population base, and we started to get more and more love from our customers. The thing that I didn't realize was the discipline of charging is a more honest reflection of creating value for your customers. So I make so many mistakes, it's kind of laughable, but I certainly missed that in the sense of looking at metrics that were abstractions of real value by saying customers are really using this information, but they're not actually changing it. Where if you charge, you get a much more true interpretation of what they're getting from it because they're literally exchanging. So I don't think that freemium is a bad model, but as we sort of rethink things and as I advise other companies, I think making sure that you really baked in your charge model and you're trying to prove that value earlier than just go all for it.
Yep. Dane, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Quick answers here. Number 1, what's the last book you read?
Life 3.0. Just bloody brilliant.
Life 3.0. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now besides Anthony?
All of them.
Name kind of off the grid one in New York that has really impressed you.
So I'm in a bunch of CEO groups. I think that's really helpful. So I spend a lot of time with CEOs. I think Freshly CEO Mike is really impressive.
Freshly CEO Mike. Okay, great. Number 3, what's your favorite, besides your own, what's your favorite online tool?
Oh, crap. I'm really impressed with Intercom these days.
Yep. Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Luckily, I don't sleep much, so 4 or 5.
Luckily, I love how you phrase that. All right. And what's your situation? Married, single, you have kids?
Technically single, but I have 2 kids and live with a baby mama for the last 15 years.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So 2 kiddos, and how old are you?
I am 44.
44. Last question, Dane. Take us back 24 years. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
Well, I was lucky when I was 20, I had a company about the same size as this one, and I would be spending months teaching me. Well, actually, I think at the end of the day, just make the mistakes. Just continue going for it. That has worked out.
There you guys have it from Dane. He sensed opportunity at Squarespace, watching Anthony grow, tried to buy it, didn't work, passed Anthony's dad test, ended up being CEO in 2007, helping really grow the company up until 2011. He ended up leaving there. Now really trying to go the opposite way business model-wise at SumAll, which is basically, helping SMBs and small businesses collect all their data, then make recommendations on that data and actually take action to help them improve revenue and delivering value to their customers. He'll then use that leverage to potentially monetize in the future. $25 million raised with a team of a little less than 50 up there in New York. Dane, thank you for taking us to the top.
Thank you very much.